Hello everyone, the Bearded Thumb here for yet another beer review. If you've been watching this series so far, you know all of these videos have a theme to them. And if you can't figure out this theme, this one is Canadian beers for America's brother to the north. And as the other reviews have been, and it's been working out well for me, featuring the big ass glass. So, what we're going to do, if you're not familiar with how this works, I pour out each beer, I smell it, I taste it, I review it. We're going to start off with an often mentioned in these videos, my favorite Moosehead, and finish an unknown territory of Le Fin du Monde, and see how things go, and find out who will be joining Modelo and Bud Light for the North American Championship. So without further ado, let's get started. First up, we have Moosehead. Probably my absolute favorite beer that I bounce between drinking along this and Bud Light, as I have mentioned in just about every video I've done so far. They have recently changed the packaging, which I will say I do enjoy this new branding. This particular beer is a lager and has a 5% alcohol by volume. So let's open it up and see what we got. And yes, I'm going to pour out the whole bottle because I fully plan to finish this. As I do with all of these beers, I will say right now I have familiarity with 3 of the 4 beers. I drink Moosehead, Labatt, and Molson all very regularly. And I have never tried Le Fin du Monde, but I am looking forward to it. So as we see, this has a classical lager color, a nice dark amber. I will say the one thing I do gotta bash Moosehead for is it does have a bit of a skunky smell to it. It is very potent. Almost reminds me of Corona, but not as unpleasant as the smell of Corona. So, you know what comes next. Time to taste it. That is very good, very smooth. One of my favorites for a reason. Just a great lager. I mean, just so drinkable. And year-round drinkable, too. Not like how some people drink stuff that's heavier in the summer, or in the winter, rather, and then lighter in the summer. I mean, you could drink this year-round because it's not too heavy, it's not too light. It is perfectly made, in my opinion. And one thing I was going to say is I know all these beers have different variants, but I just wanted to stick to flagship beers. I know like Moosehead has Moose Light, and then in the summer they have Moose Light Lime. But those are different beers for different reviews. For this one right here, I'm happy I started off with this. I wanted to start off with my favorite, so I can try to be fair in judging everything, and not end on my favorite and see it as being like the saving grace. But I'm feeling it's going to be pretty hard to knock off my favorite, and I will try to avoid my bias, though. I will do my best to keep things fair and judge everything equally. So with that said, next beer. Next up, we have Molson Canadian Lager Beer. It has honestly been a long freaking time since I have had a Molson. Prior to my budget beer review, I used to credit the variant of Molson Gold as being the worst beer I had ever drank. But regular Molson I like. I originally only tried Molson because as a Blue Jays fan and a hockey fan, I would often see commercials for it, watching the out-of-town feeds here from Chicago and watching the Blue Jays game, or just watching various hockey games. So when I turned 21, it was one of the first beers I did decide to buy. And it's been a while since I had it, so let's open it up and see what we have here. It's been a while, I'm not going to pour out the whole bottle there. Definitely lighter in color than the Moosehead. Give it the old smell test. Definitely lighter smelling too. Definitely has that lager smell to it, but not as potent as the Moosehead was. So you know what comes next. Time to taste. Not bad. Side by side with the Moosehead, it's definitely not as smooth and clean all the way through. It's got a very light and smooth front to it, but definitely has an aftertaste that kind of mule kicks you going down. I mean, it's not bad, but having it side by side, especially following up something that was as smooth as the Moosehead, it's going to lose points for that aftertaste. But then again, I could also say that with the Moosehead had a much more unpleasant smell. But in the end, if you're drinking beer, you're looking for taste, right? I mean, who cares if there's a little bit of skunkiness to it? Overall, not bad, but that aftertaste is going to be a little hard to look past. So, with that said, next beer. Next up, we have Labatt Blue, and I will be fully honest, as much as I like Labatt Blue, it is not my favorite variant of Labatt. I actually like the Labatt Blue Light. I mean, I could slam like a whole fucking 24-pack of that shit in summertime, no problem, but I wanted to keep this fair, so I stuck with all the flagship brands, no variants. I actually used to get this beer at a bar locally here when I was 21 and 22 for the first couple seasons of baseball while I was of legal drinking age. I tried to only drink Canadian beer, and which is easy to keep around my house with Moosehead. But whenever I go out to the bars, a lot of bars around here didn't have Canadian beers. And the one bar that I have since may or may not have been banned from used to actually carry this beer, and yeah, you know what? Let's open up and see what it has to offer. I know it's a twist off, but fuck it, I'm still prying it off. If I can pry it off. There we go. I know I can figure this out. Similar in color to the Molson, maybe just a little darker. So far, I'd say Moosehead has been the darkest of all these so far. What is the ABV on this here? Not immediately seeing it. I also have some pretty bad lighting down here. The one thing I do think is weird about it is, unlike the traditional bottle of beer that is a 12 ounce, this one comes in 11.5 ounce bottles, which I don't know why. Maybe it's a provincial thing up there. I've never looked into it. But this one, unlike the last two, is a Pilsner, not a lager. I'll give it the smell test. Very light smelling, not surprised coming from a Pilsner. Very pleasant, very light. I think I can see why I like the light version of this so much, because naturally it is a pretty light beer. So let's go ahead and taste it. Really good basic Pilsner. Nothing too sophisticated to it. I mean, in the class of Pilsners, I think I'd still say either Perla, Perla from my Polish beer review, or Pilsner Urquell still would probably be one of my go-to Pilsners, but damn, that is good. Really smooth and clean all the way through, start to finish. No aftertaste at all, unlike the Molson, which I want to really stress, I am not bashing Molson for the aftertaste. I mean, if it was the only beer that I was going to be drinking during a session, no problem at all. It probably wouldn't bother me. It's just when you're drinking these beers side by side, that stands out to you. But so far, they've all been really good. And with that said, it is time to venture into unknown territory and head on to the final beer. Next up, we are at the grand finale, or the fin, as you would see in the end of some older movies, with Le Fin du Monde, which is a Belgian-style triple ale, which does not sound very promising, as anyone who's watched these videos regularly knows exactly how I feel about ales. This has a whopping 9% alcohol by volume. It has a similar annoying-looking wrapping of tinfoil at the top, like the Modelo from the Mexican beer review. But hey, last time I had to deal with tinfoil on a beer, it ended up winning the challenge. So let's crack this open and see what we got. I am not looking forward to this. Oh, wow, that is some really poorly wrapped on tinfoil there. I almost ripped most of it off here, just trying to get the can opener under there. Son of a bitch. Try to make sure I get all the tinfoil away from the mouth there so none of it pours into the glass. Why the hell anyone would wrap their beer in tinfoil is absolutely beyond me. I mean, I don't know if they think it looks prettier. It does not. It just kind of pisses off the drinker. Oh, that is never a good color for beer when you're in the area of brown. And I'm going to get rid of this tinfoil here. It's a little distracting. So, this beer has an ale look to it. I'm almost positive it's going to have an ale smell to it, but hey, you know what? I'm a glutton for punishment. So it's not a very pungent or potent ale smell, but definitely has an ale smell to it. Very murky, like swamp water-like look to it. So you know what? Enough stalling. Let's, unfortunately, let's drink this thing. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to fight it, keep it down. Ugh, God, that was weird. Okay, has a very similar taste to it. Maybe like cough syrup. Maybe like rotten maple syrup. Not pleasant. That is got a funky taste to it, but weirdly enough, despite the fact that I felt like I was going to throw it up as soon as I drank it, it's got an oddly okay taste to it for an ale. That is the keyword, for an ale. It's got a weird sweetness to it, might I say. Does it say if there's like made of syrup? Oh, it's spiced, so that's probably what I'm tasting is the spices. It's the ale brewed with spices. This definitely isn't something you're going to want to sit there and slam. And I'm going to say you would probably want this to be really, really, really freaking cold. Like maybe out of an ice chest. I had these in the refrigerator for probably about 5-6 hours. So, I mean, it's refrigerator cold, but I think anything under ice cold is just not going to cut it with this particular beer. It's like I said, it's definitely not my favorite. I don't like it compared to the others. It would not be my first one to go for. This is maybe, all right, I'm going to say this is a classy beer. Like, if I was not going somewhere and thinking, you know what, I'm taking an Uber home, let's go for the high score. If I'm going somewhere seriously with some friends, we're having a, nice meal somewhere, I might consider buying one of these, just because for what it is, being an ale and having a grossly high ABV, it truly is not bad. I know I was a little dramatic when I said I almost threw it up, but I mean, it just, that weird sweetness or spice to it just kind of caught me off guard. I was not expecting it. I was expecting, with the word ale in it, to get blasted with hops, and I wasn't. So overall, not something I would drink regularly, but not undrinkable either. It's just going to get okay for being an ale as its rating. So with that said, it is time to go ahead and crown a winner. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and go with the bias, Moosehead. I mean, Labatt Blue gave it a good run for its money, showing up here in second place. But what it ultimately comes down to is just, I mean, Moosehead, I could drink that year-round. It is just so damn good. I know it's not easy to compare a lager to a Pilsner, but what I think I have to give this the win to Moosehead for is, in the lager class, being as smooth and drinkable from start to finish is just really damn good, really impressive. I love it for that. Whereas the Labatt Blue, for being a Pilsner, it's just very, very basic. Not much to write home about. So that is going to bring us to the end of this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell to get future notifications of uploads. And since I have now finished my North American tour, we will be having a final of Moosehead, Bud Light, and Modelo for the North American Championship. That is all set to take place in a future video. You can also follow me on Facebook, by the way. Link to the Facebook page will be in the description below. If you did not like this video, however, and feel no one should ever be subjected to watching this crap ever again, thumbs down, negative comment, and until next time, this has been the Bearded Thumb. Have a good one.